When did the class clown take it too far? Senior year, teacher wouldn't give her a whole pass to use the bathroom, which was ridiculous. Instead of taking a more conventional stand, like walking out of the room, she sat down in her desk and pissed her pants. She was suspended. I forgot for how long. There were editorials back and forth in the school paper. I was on team, teachers shouldn't try to control all bowels, but also maybe don't piss on the floor. Though I do appreciate you taking one for the team. Story 2. Junior year in high school, in Algebra 2. The teacher was kind of a douche, so this one guy, let's call him Mike, would give him a hard time. This was a regular thing, and Mike would get kicked out of class for saying and doing some inappropriate stuff, but we all thought it was hilarious. One day, our teacher didn't show up to class. Word got around that his oldest son had died of a drug overdose, and he had to take some personal time off. He didn't show back up until a week later, and he looked really sullen and dull. During class, Mike pulled out a can of Coca-Cola and started sipping it like a maniac. Teacher had a strict no eating or drinking in class policy, and Mike was aware of that. He told Mike to throw it away and step outside. Mike, the absolute savage, says, "Look, I know you don't like Coke, but I'm sure your son did." Nobody laughed, just silence. Some people didn't get it. The ones who did were just too shocked to say anything, like me. Mike threw his drink away and walked out of the classroom, while the teacher just sort of haphazardly continued his lesson, although we could tell Mike's comment really effed him up. Story 3. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. Mind you, this was no small line. I actually think he was rubbing it off a candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood, and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye. He ran out of the room, and I later saw an ambulance come to the school. Story 4. There was a class clown in my class, and another one from the senior class at the time. They would collaborate to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forgot exactly what it was, but there was some kind of very important event going on that day, and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they've done that on any other day, he would probably just let them go after making them clean it up. They got detention, and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor who had to clean that up in the dark when it was freezing cold. Story 5. When I was in 3rd grade, we were all doing our thing, coloring, reading, etc. The class clown was being really noisy and kept goofing off. We were all having fun, and the class clown eventually sat down. It wasn't long before he was laying on the floor, foaming out of his mouth, shaking violently. We all laughed. It is a joke, right? Before long, the teacher came rushing over to see the new joke the kid came up with. She immediately called 911, and he was rushed out of the room. He had a seizure while the whole class thought he was joking. He recovered and everything was fine. I just feel bad for the kid. Story 6. I was at an all-state music festival, and during some downtime between rehearsals, the conductor asks if anyone wants to come up and say a joke into the mic. One of the kids raises his hand, walks up, and tells the following joke. What do you call a kid with no friends? A Sandy Hook survivor. I absolutely could not believe what I heard. This was just weeks, or maybe a few months after the incident. I don't remember if anyone laughed. I don't think they did. And he definitely got a sturdy talking to. Story 7. My sophomore year of high school. It was in English class, and there were 4 class clowns in the same class. 2nd semester of school, so it was shortly after I've been switched from one teacher's class to the new one. During the 1st semester, there was a student a grade below us that had committed not alive, and a year before that, my cousin had done the same. Teacher walked out of the classroom to take something to get printed, or something, and left the only senior in class in charge. Both she and I were close to the deceased freshman's family and had struggled with his dad together. Not a minute after the teacher left, 2 of the clowns got up and went over to the window, grabbed the pull string to the blinds, and used it as a noose to jokingly hang themselves. Some kids laughed, some kids told them to knock it off, and a few just wanted to finish their worksheets. But I had to leave the classroom and pass the teacher in the hall. She saw I was crying and asked what happened. I was trying to explain while sobbing, when the senior came out after chewing the clowns a new one and explained to the teacher what had happened. She actually escorted everyone except the clowns out of the classroom so she wouldn't disturb the other classes around us with how much and how loudly she yelled at them. Story 8. I knew a guy, high school student in the late 60s. He and his best friend were very close, but had also dated the same girl. My buddy dated this girl first, now the friend was dating her. No problems, but they both understood how this could be perceived as a potential friendship ender. They had a joke all planned out. The best friend grabbed some ketchup packets from a fast food restaurant. After lunch, he was sitting in class with the packets torn slightly, tucked unnoticeably in his hand. My buddy had a starter pistol from the track and field team. My buddy ran into the classroom and shouted, "You can't steal my girl from me! If I can't have her, no one can!" and fired the starting pistol, filled with blanks, not bullets, in the direction of his best friend. The friend, who had jumped up from the desk during the shouting, clutched his chest from the fake bullet wound, sending horrifying streaks of red flying all over his white shirt. He collapsed. The look of horror on the face of every student in the room, my buddy said, was amazing. He and his best friend both got detention. Sometimes I think about this story and I wonder what would happen if high school students tried this in a recent time. It's crazy how much times change in just a couple of generations. Story 9. Friend decided to shove his hands into my back pockets and grab my ass. I wasn't wearing a belt. Ended up panting me straight to the floor. I was wearing spandexy type underwear at the time. Caught those on the way down too, and ended up like pulling it down to where my pee-pee sprung out of them. What was bad was worse, as our track coach had just walked in looking for me, and she got the full frontal. Not to mention the class saw everything as well, as I tried to pull my pants up only to realize my pee-pee was out on full display. At the end, I didn't even get detention. SMH. Story 10. There was a story here in the UK not so long ago, about some kid who was effing around in class and flicking bits of food at people. He threw a bit of cheese at this kid who turned out to have severe allergies, and ended up going in an anaphylactic shock. School mishandled it quite a bit, and the poor kid ended up dying. Not sure if this is exactly a case of the class clown taking it too far, as he wasn't to know, but the consequences were dire even so. Story 11. I had my moments of class clownery. The only one I really regret all those years later was from middle school. My science teacher was telling us a story about dealing with bullies. Back in the day, some punks were messing with him and his friends, and he confronted them. At some point in the exchange, he said something like, "Come at me anytime, I'm not hard to find." Looking for a laugh, I spoke up and said, "Why? Were you fat?" There was some muffled laughter, but all I really remember was the teacher stopping almost mid-sentence, staring daggers at me, face red as hell. He stopped his story and told us curtly to just work on homework. He barely said anything the rest of the class. I felt like absolute shit. It didn't register to me, yeah, maybe he did struggle with his weight as a kid, and that was part of the bullying. I really didn't imagine he was a fat kid or anything. It was just a play on the easy-to-find mental image. Damn. I apologized as best as I could at the end of class, but it was tense. At the end of the year, he actually awarded me a Best Science Student Award or something like that. You know how they'll do a bunch of student awards for attendance and other stuff like that. I think the fact that he did that means he forgave me, but I still feel like a massive heel every time I think about this.